I was 12 when I first noticed something unusual about my body. It was a typical afternoon, the kind where the world seemed to slow down, and the air felt heavy with the scent of rain. I was in the bathroom, a place that had always been a refuge from the chaos of family life, when I first saw the blood. It wasn't the blood itself that caught my attention. It was the way it seemed to shimmer slightly in the dim light, a deep, rich red that was almost mesmerizing. I watched the droplets fall into the sink, each one a vivid splash against the white porcelain. I was young, but I knew what this meant. My mother had explained it to me, her voice a mix of clinical detachment and vague embarrassment. "It's your period," she had said. "It's normal. It happens to all women." But as I stood there, staring at the blood, I felt something else, a strange curiosity, a pull that was hard to describe. On an impulse, I touched my finger to the blood and brought it to my lips. The taste was metallic, intense, and strangely invigorating. It was as if I had unlocked a door to a part of myself I never knew existed. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon something significant. I began to research, reading everything I could find about menstruation, about the properties of blood, about the rituals and beliefs that surrounded it in different cultures. I learned that in some traditions, menstrual blood was seen as a source of power, a connection to the divine. It was both fascinating and unsettling. Driven by a mix of curiosity and a desire to understand, I started collecting the blood in a small vial. It was a secret ritual, one that I kept hidden from everyone. Each month, as the cycle repeated, I would find myself drawn to the vial, eager to explore the sensations it evoked. In the quiet of my room, I would taste the blood, feeling a surge of energy, a clarity of mind that was both exhilarating and terrifying. It was as if I had tapped into a hidden reservoir of strength and insight. I felt more attuned to the world around me, more aware of the subtle shifts in my environment. It was as if I had developed a sixth sense, a heightened perception that allowed me to see things I had never noticed before. As the months turned into years, the ritual became a part of my life. I cherished the moments when I could feel the power of the blood coursing through me, filling me with a sense of purpose and clarity. But with this power came a growing awareness of the changes it wrought within me. My skin took on a pale, almost translucent quality, and my eyes seemed to reflect the light in a way that made people uneasy. I noticed that I was becoming more distant from those around me, as if I was slipping into a world of my own, one that was separate from the reality others inhabited. I felt a growing sense of isolation, a chasm that seemed to widen with each passing day. Despite this, I couldn't bring myself to let go of the ritual. It was a part of me now, a secret that defined who I was. I told myself that I could control it, that I could balance the power it gave me with the life I was meant to lead. But deep down, I knew that the blood was a force of its own, one that was slowly but surely reshaping me from the inside out. It was during these years that I began to sense a presence, a shadow that seemed to linger at the edge of my vision. It was as if the ritual had opened a door not just to a deeper reality, but to something else, something that was waiting for me to acknowledge its existence. One evening, as I sat in my room, the vial clutched in my hand, I felt a chill run through the air. The room seemed to grow darker, the shadows lengthening and taking on a life of their own. I looked up and saw a figure standing in the corner, a silhouette that seemed to pulse with the same energy as the blood. The figure was a woman, or at least the shape of one, her eyes glowing with a light that seemed to pierce through me. I felt a shiver of fear, but also a sense of recognition, as if I had known her all along. "You have called me," she said, her voice a whisper that echoed in my mind. "You have tasted the power, and now you must face the consequences." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words settle over me. I knew that this moment had been coming, that the ritual was more than just a source of power. It was a connection to something greater, something that demanded a price. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The figure smiled, a smile that was both beautiful and terrifying. "You have tasted the power, and now you must choose. You can continue on this path, embracing the darkness that comes with it, or you can let go and return to the life you once knew." Her words hung in the air, a challenge that resonated deep within me. I thought of the years I had spent, the power I had felt, the connection to something greater than myself. But I also thought of the isolation, the growing distance from those I loved. In that moment, I realized that the blood had given me a gift, but it had also taken something from me. My humanity, my connection to the world. I knew that I had a choice to make, one that would define the course of my life. The days following the encounter with the figure were filled with a sense of unease. as if the world had shifted slightly off its axis. I found myself questioning everything I had come to believe about the ritual and the power it granted me. The presence of the woman lingered in my mind, her words echoing in my thoughts like a haunting melody. Despite the fear that gripped me, I couldn't deny the allure of the power I had tasted. It was as if the blood had awakened something deep within me, a part of myself that had been dormant for so long. I felt a pull, a yearning to explore the depths of this newfound connection to the world around me. As the next month approached, I found myself preparing for the ritual with a mix of anticipation and dread. The vial sat on my dresser, a constant reminder of the choice that lay before me. I knew that I could walk away, that I could choose to let go of the power and return to the life I had known. But the thought of giving it up filled me with a sense of loss, as if I were being asked to abandon a part of myself. The day the blood came, I felt a familiar surge of energy. I collected it in the vial, my hands trembling slightly as I did so. I could feel the presence of the woman nearby, as if she were watching me, waiting to see what I would do. In the quiet of my room, I held the vial up to the light, watching the blood shimmer with an otherworldly glow. I could feel the power it contained, the promise of clarity and insight that had become so familiar to me. I knew that I was at a crossroads, that the choice I made in that moment would shape the course of my life. I hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I thought of the isolation I had felt, the growing distance from my friends and family. I knew that the power of the blood came with a price, one that I was not sure I was willing to pay. But then I thought of the moments of clarity, the sense of connection to something greater than myself. I remembered the feeling of strength and purpose that the blood had given me, and I realized that I was not ready to let it go. With a deep breath, I brought the vial to my lips and drank. The taste was familiar, metallic, and intense, and I felt the familiar surge of energy coursing through me. It was as if a switch had been flipped, and I was once again filled with the power and clarity that I had come to rely on. In the days that followed, I felt more attuned to the world around me than ever before. My senses were heightened, and I could perceive things that others could not. A subtle shift in the wind, the hidden emotions in a person's voice, the intricate patterns in the world that seemed to pulse with life. But with this heightened awareness came a growing sense of detachment. I found myself observing the world from a distance, as if I were watching a play unfold rather than being a part of it. I could see the pain and joy in the people around me, but I felt disconnected from it, as if I were standing on the outside looking in. It was during this time that I began to notice the woman more frequently. She appeared in my dreams, her presence both comforting and unsettling. In one dream, she showed me visions of a world that was vibrant and alive, a world where I was connected to everything around me. In another, she showed me the darkness that lay beneath the surface, the cost of the power I had been granted. The dreams left me with a sense of longing and fear, a desire to understand the true nature of the power I had been given. I knew that I was at a turning point, that I needed to find a way to reconcile the power of the blood with the life I wanted to lead. One evening, as I sat in my room, the vial clutched in my hand, I heard a voice. It was the woman, her presence filling the room with an energy that was both calming and overwhelming. "You are at a crossroads," she said, her voice a gentle whisper in my mind. "You have tasted the power, and now you must decide what to do with it." I looked up, meeting her gaze. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She smiled, a smile that was both beautiful and sad. "I want you to understand that the power you have been given is a gift, but it is also a burden. You must learn to wield it wisely, to find a balance between the world you see and the world you know." Her words resonated with me, and I realized that she was right. The power of the blood was a gift, but it was also a responsibility. I needed to find a way to use it without losing myself in the process. In that moment, I made a decision. I would continue to explore the power of the blood, but I would do so with caution and respect. I would seek to understand the true nature of the gift I had been given, and I would strive to find a balance between the power it granted me and the life I wanted to lead. The decision to embrace the power of the blood while seeking balance weighed heavily on me. It was a path I had chosen, but one that was fraught with challenges and uncertainties. I knew that I had to tread carefully, to navigate the fine line between the heightened awareness the blood granted me and the life I was determined to maintain. In the weeks that followed, I began to experiment with the extent of my abilities. I found that my senses were indeed sharper. I could perceive the subtle shifts in people's emotions, the unspoken words that lingered in the air. I could sense the energy of the world around me, the pulse of life that thrummed beneath the surface of everyday existence. At first, it was exhilarating. I felt like I was seeing the world with new eyes, uncovering layers of reality that had been hidden from me before. I could anticipate people's needs, understand their motivations, and even predict their actions with uncanny accuracy. It was as if I had been given a glimpse into the inner workings of the human psyche. But as time went on, I began to realize the darker side of this newfound perception. I found myself overwhelmed by the constant barrage of emotions and sensations. It was as if I had opened a door that I couldn't close, and I was being bombarded by the raw, unfiltered experiences of those around me. I struggled to maintain my own sense of self amidst the chaos. The more I tuned into the world, the more I felt myself slipping away, losing touch with my own thoughts and feelings. I was caught in a constant struggle to distinguish between what was mine and what belonged to others. It was during this time that I sought solace in the woman who had become my guide of sorts. She appeared to me in moments of doubt, offering guidance and reassurance. Her presence was both comforting and enigmatic, a reminder of the path I had chosen. "You must learn to control the flow of energy," she told me one evening as we sat together in a quiet corner of my mind. "The power you wield is a gift, but it can also be a curse if you do not learn to harness it." Her words resonated with me, and I realized that I needed to find a way to manage the influx of sensations. I began to practice meditation, seeking to quiet my mind and focus my thoughts. I learned to visualize a barrier, a shield that would protect me from the overwhelming tide of emotions. It was a slow and arduous process, but gradually, I began to regain a sense of control. I learned to tune in and out at will, to open myself to the world when I needed to, and to retreat into myself when the chaos became too much. It was a delicate balance, one that required constant vigilance and effort. As I grew more adept at managing my abilities, I also began to explore the deeper implications of the power I had been given. I realized that the blood was not just a source of personal strength. It was a connection to something greater, a link to the collective energy of all living things. This realization brought with it a sense of responsibility. I understood that the power I wielded could be used for good or for bad, and I was determined to use it wisely. I began to seek out opportunities to help others, to use my abilities to make a positive difference in the world. I volunteered at a local community center, offering my services as a counselor and mentor. I found that my heightened perception allowed me to connect with people on a deeper level, to understand their struggles and offer guidance that was both compassionate and insightful. But even as I embraced this new role, I was acutely aware of the challenges that lay ahead. I knew that I would continue to face moments of doubt and uncertainty, that the path I had chosen would not always be easy. Yet, I was determined to persevere. I had come to understand that the power of the blood was not just a gift. It was a journey, one that required courage, resilience, and a commitment to growth. As I continued to navigate the complexities of my newfound abilities, life presented me with challenges that tested my resolve and understanding. The balance I had worked so hard to achieve was often precarious, and there were moments when the weight of my responsibilities felt overwhelming. One evening, as I sat in the quiet of my room, I felt a familiar presence. The woman who had guided me through my journey appeared, her form shimmering like a mirage in the dim light. Her presence was both comforting and unsettling, a reminder of the path I had chosen and the mysteries that still lay ahead. "You have come far," she said, her voice a gentle whisper in my mind. "But there is more you must understand." I looked at her, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" I asked, eager to learn more about the power that had become such an integral part of my life. She gestured for me to sit, and as I did, she began to speak. "The blood you have been drinking is not merely a source of personal power. It is a connection to the ancient forces that shape the world, a link to the collective energy of all living things." Her words resonated with me, echoing the understanding I had begun to develop on my own. But there was something more, a deeper truth that she was about to reveal. "The power you wield is not just yours alone," she continued. "It is part of a greater tapestry, a web of energy that connects all of us. And with this connection comes a responsibility to use your gifts wisely and with compassion." I nodded, taking in her words. I had already begun to sense this connection, this link to something greater than myself. But hearing her speak of it so directly filled me with a sense of awe and humility. "There is a reason you were drawn to the blood," she said, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity that was both comforting and overwhelming. "You have a gift for empathy, for understanding the emotions and experiences of others. This gift, combined with the power of the blood, makes you a bridge between worlds." Her words struck a chord within me. I had always felt a deep connection to the people around me, a desire to understand and help them. But I had never considered that this connection could be a gift, let alone one that was amplified by the power of the blood. What does this mean for me? I asked, eager to understand the implications of what she was saying. It means that you have the ability to bring healing and understanding to those around you, she replied. But it also means that you must be careful. The power you wield can be a double-edged sword. It can bring light, but it can also cast shadows if used without care. Her warning resonated with me. I had already experienced the challenges of managing the influx of emotions and sensations that came with my abilities. I knew that I had to be vigilant, to use my gifts wisely and with intention. As I sat there, contemplating her words, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I realized that the power of the blood was not just a personal journey. It was a calling, a responsibility to use my gifts to make a positive difference in the world. With this newfound understanding, I began to see my role in a different light. I embraced my abilities with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to use them to help others and to foster a deeper connection to the world around me. I continued to volunteer at the community center, but I also began to seek out opportunities to work with people who were struggling with emotional and psychological challenges. I found that my heightened perception allowed me to connect with them on a deeper level, to offer guidance and support that was both compassionate and insightful. But I also learned to be mindful of the boundaries between myself and others. I realized that while my abilities allowed me to understand and empathize with people on a profound level, it was important to maintain a sense of self and to respect the autonomy of those I sought to help. As I navigated this new chapter in my journey, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. I had come to understand that the power of the blood was not just a gift, it was a responsibility, one that required courage, compassion, and a commitment to growth. The revelation of my true connection to the power of the blood had fundamentally shifted my understanding of myself and my place in the world. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a path that was both daunting and exhilarating. I had come to accept that my abilities were not just a source of personal strength, but a profound responsibility to use them for the greater good. In the months that followed, I dedicated myself to honing my skills and deepening my understanding of the energy that flowed through me. I continued to meditate, seeking to strengthen the barrier I had built to protect myself from the overwhelming tide of emotions. But I also learned to lower that barrier intentionally, allowing myself to connect with others in meaningful ways. I found that my work at the community center became more impactful. My heightened empathy and understanding allowed me to reach people in ways I hadn't thought possible. I began to facilitate support groups, using my abilities to foster an environment of trust and openness. People felt heard and understood, and I could see the positive impact it had on their lives. One evening, as I was leaving the center, I encountered a young woman named Sarah. She was sitting on the steps, her head in her hands, radiating a profound sense of despair. I felt a familiar pull, a desire to help, and I approached her cautiously. "Are you okay?" I asked, sitting down beside her. She looked up, her eyes red from crying. "I don't know," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "I feel so lost." I listened as she poured out her heart, sharing her struggles with anxiety and depression. I could feel her pain as if it were my own, but I also sensed a strength within her, a resilience that she couldn't yet see. As she spoke, I focused on maintaining my balance, ensuring that I was able to offer her support without losing myself in her emotions. I shared my own experiences, not to compare but to let her know she wasn't alone. I told her about the journey I had been on, the challenges I had faced, and the strength I had found within myself. Over time, Sarah and I developed a bond. I continued to meet with her, offering guidance and encouragement. I used my abilities to help her see her own strength, to recognize the power she had within her to overcome her challenges. It was a slow process, but gradually, I saw her begin to change. She started to believe in herself, to find hope in the midst of her struggles. Through my work with Sarah and others, I came to understand the true potential of my abilities. I realized that while the power of the blood had initially been a source of personal growth, its true purpose was to connect me with others, to foster understanding and healing. But with this realization came new challenges. I had to learn to navigate the complexities of my relationships, to balance my desire to help with the need to respect boundaries. I had to be mindful of the energy I expended, ensuring that I didn't burn myself out in the process of helping others. It was during this time that I sought the guidance of the woman who had been my mentor. She appeared to me one evening, her presence a comforting reminder of the path I was on. "You have come far," she said, her voice filled with pride. "But remember, the journey is never ending. There will always be challenges, always new lessons to learn. Her words resonated with me, and I realized that she was right. The power of the blood was a gift, but it was also a continuous journey of growth and discovery. As I continued on this path, I found a sense of fulfillment that I had never known before. I had learned to embrace my abilities, to use them to make a positive difference in the world. I had found a way to balance my personal growth with my responsibility to others, to live a life that was both meaningful and authentic. In the end, the power of the blood had transformed me in ways I could never have imagined. It had connected me to something greater than myself, to a world of energy and possibility. And in doing so, it had taught me the true meaning of strength, compassion, and the enduring power of the human spirit.